Welcome to GESSCast. Tune in and listen as we speak to global education experts about the latest trends, challenges and stories that matter.
Welcome to the GESSCast podcast, everybody, where we delve into the minds and stories of leaders transforming the field of education. I'm Jahan, your host today, and I'm joined by Tai Paschall, a seasoned education leader and digital education and AI specialist. Tai has over a decade of experience revolutionizing education in the Middle East, aiding schools in creating digital environments that captivate and engage learners of all ages. Tai, thank you for joining us at GESS Dubai.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this is your second time at GESS Dubai.
This is number 2.
How has your experience been so far?
Oh, so I'm at rock star level now. Thank you, GESS. Right, the year has been incredible. Right,
Yeah.
Just from last year to this year, just it shows in like the panels that are now popping up. Right, that just involve me. It's so, like, for me, it's weird that something that, like you said, I've been in the front of for the past decade, right? Now all of a sudden I become this rock star and this expert, but
your theme of AI has really been pushed to the forefront.
I've been talking about this for at least 6 years now, right? I've been teaching students in this country and in this region artificial intelligence and programming coding for at least 6 to 7 years.
Wow.
So you
must be glad it's a hot topic now then.
Oh, totally. It's like now I'm not the weird guy in the corner anymore of, just talking about nerd stuff, right?
People are actually interested in what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm now a nerd in a cool guy's body. And that's how it works now for me. And just assuming that so saying that it's natural, right? This is not a forced topic or a forced area for me. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about future casting our students and the next generation of learners. But then, okay, what does that then mean for education, and what is the non-traditional pathways that we now have to get students to those things that we don't even know would exist yet, right? But setting those future goals with technology.
And your career began in the tech industry with major names like Microsoft and Apple.
Yes.
How did those roles influence your approach to integrating technology into the classroom?
That's how I got into education, right? In the state of Texas, where I'm originally from, there was emergency certification for teachers. Shortage of teachers was even 15, 20 years ago, right? And so you were allowed to teach in your subject matter from industry experience or, of course, university, matriculation. So I was, at the time, I was with Microsoft and kind of had that redundancy of things that was happening, right? And I volunteered for a program in schools, and it really took off. It was like, kids actually like these kinds of things that I'm talking about, coding and programming and things like that. And so it was suggested, like, hey, go back and get a certification and you can actually teach here. And so what I recognized, because backstory, education is the family business, right? So everyone in my family is in education, right?
Oh, wow.
It was just me that was the one that was like, I ain't doing that, right? And so then when I got in a classroom and I saw what it means to really be an educator, I saw that there were so many choices that people were just making out of tradition, right? And so I was already a non-traditionalist, not going through educational pathway the way everyone else in my family or people that I knew were doing. So then when I got into that space and I was able to command and have a probability of increasing students, it was like, I came through these doors non-traditionally, so why not encourage students to do the same, right? So I realized that I was getting the opportunity to develop those next generation of people that I would want to work with at Microsoft, that I would want to work with Google. And so that became the passion. Because I might not be in those spaces anymore, but I can grow up and I can show you what you need to do in order to get there, to be that next generation, right, of thought leaders, right, in the field that I have the expertise in.
I feel like we need more people like that in schools, especially because schools are so traditional already. having someone, like you said, who's a non-traditionalist can be so encouraging for students to see and definitely embody. So yeah, that's really amazing.
I'm a contrarian by nature, right? I'm going to challenge everything.
The status quo.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I think, you know, I'm that person in society, right? And the Native American culture, they even talk about like the backwards horse rider, right? He's a contrarian. He does it on purpose so that people, you know, but
pay attention.
Pay attention to what is normal or challenge why that box exists in the first place.
Right.
Right? I want to think not outside the box. It's like, why do we even refer to the box in the first place?
Good question.
Right? So that's my goal, and I know that's what my role is. But now that is the role that education now needs to take, right? We're on this side of the pandemic. We all survived. Thank God we're here. And right? Okay, so now what do we do? Right? That changed and revolutionized this entire planet. Nobody thinks the same after 2020.
Right.
Right? You know, we're at a conference with you know, hundreds of vendors who have products and things that possibly even came out of that, right? Of now, how do we provide things for students, you know, as it comes to technology and services that are needed? So we're already on that basis. So how do we continue to build towards that? And that's where my voice lies now. Like, let's not say no to things. Let's say yes to things within reason and moderation. And why we're saying it is so that we can help shape, you know, that next world that is going to be built by the next generation.
Yeah. Obviously, technology can be very useful. But we also are battling the idea of people or students are becoming too reliant upon it. So how do you think we still are able to create capable individuals who are able to...
We had this chat on my panel that we were at yesterday, talking about just the innovation of AI and the basis of everything now that I'm doing, you know, like just the campaign that I have of no AI shaming, right? Like we start from there of saying, I'm not going to shame anybody for using it or wanting to use it or actually using it and producing something that's valuable, right? And that's teachers, that's leaders, that's students.
Like there needs to be boundaries.
There's got to be boundaries, but if we all come out of the shadows, that's how we can put boundaries on it. I can't safeguard something that I don't know that you're doing, right? I've walked into rooms with leaders, right? And they say, well, we don't know if we want to use artificial intelligence, and I know you're here, but I don't know if we really want to do it. And I convince them, you probably already are.
Yeah.
You know, when you already have like, you know, data trackers that have predictive, you know, artificial intelligence connected to it, right? When you're able to create like personalized learning pathways and things for it. Right.
Yeah.
So you already are doing it. You just don't know that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Now, in the dawn and the era that we're in, now it's being, you know, more talked about and it's more generative. So now I'm able to actually create with using this artificial intelligence. Well, we've been using predictive AI in things for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? So I say that to say that is how we need to position students.
Yes.
Right? With that same understanding. And so we have to take students through a pathway of learning of, a lot of times this might be my end result. It doesn't matter how I get there.
Right.
If I used an artificial intelligence to reach there or not, the critical thinking and the design thinking process has to happen in order for me to get there. Even though I might have used some assistance to get there, right? Yeah. But even we are taught as teachers, right? Our pedagogy tells us, Bloom's taxonomy tells us that the highest level of learning is creativity.
Right.
Right? So what if I am using tools to get me quicker to that creativity?
They're saying now, I think like 50% of people are going to have to upskill in the next 10 years anyway because of what's going on.
We have to.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that critical thinking. So at that same time, then that means I have to teach ethics. At the same time, that means I have to teach philosophy, right? The philosophy of something. Why does this exist, right? Or why is this like this way? And that's kind of, and that's what I do with schools, and I help them realize how do you kind of AI proof tasks or assessments or those kinds of things, but it means changing what my end result. I don't want someone to submit me a paper anymore. That is so 1999, right? Stop assigning papers, assign projects, right? Assign grass tasks that, I have to create a portfolio and prove certain things as the end result.
Definitely.
That I cannot use artificial intelligence on. I still have to critically go through that process.
Yeah.
And I think that's where schools have to shift to. So that's how we need to start shifting students in this 21st century revolution that we're experiencing.
I definitely agree. I feel like schools need to encourage creativity way more than they're doing at the
Totally.
moment. Yeah. What unique challenges have you faced with adapting digital learning tools for students of different ages, would you say?
So the main thing is, of course, a lot of schools and networks of schools, they're reluctant of different age groups, right? So like younger students, they're like, hey,
limits,
I don't want artificial intelligence for younger students, but we're like, why not? But there's age appropriate things that we can do. I can teach computational thinking, right? If I have to teach a student directions and a 6-year-old needs to know the difference between left or right, I can teach computational thinking, right? I can teach pathways of how to get a robot or a bear or whatever that is. That doesn't matter, right? But just following directional commands, right? Pattern recognition, right? I have to do that. That's how we read, right? Reading is just pattern recognition, right? I know what an ABC is, I know a sound, and I know what that goes together and it looks like. So just breaking down learning, and a lot of times most people don't approach it that direction. That's why people like me exist. I have to showcase that for you to realize that you already recognize it. Like, oh, I never thought of language as that.
I think some people don't even recognize what children are capable of as well.
So of course I would give a student an age-appropriate robot and show you simple algorithmic thinking, computational thinking, pattern recognition to make this robot do something, right? I had an instance, one of the schools that I serviced, they had a coding program. It was on iPads, and there was a special needs student. It was a SEN student that's very non-vocal, non-communicative, and I was going in just to pop in and check on the teacher, and the kid came in and he was showing me. He said, "Mister, I make SpongeBob do something. SpongeBob is listening to me." And so I looked, he was coding SpongeBob to walk the path of something, right? And so he was so excited to share with me that he was telling SpongeBob what to do, right? So just that's a connection, but I was teaching computational thinking through that. That teacher was able to accomplish that by understanding I'm not going to have a conversation about computer science with the student, but just because this student connects to this character, I'm giving this task, and I'm just showing direction. Now that's a computational thinking task that he's met a standard, and this is a special needs student. So now we're having this accessibility talk. We're having this equity talk of now what learning is now taking place that I would have not been able to do traditionally for a student that has special needs.
You're able to grow at such a faster rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Reflecting on your time as a digital education leader at Bloom Education, what were some of the proudest accomplishments and lessons that you've learned? Yeah,
just the proudest accomplishments is not hitting a bunch of, road bumps and like gatekeepers. Like to have opportunities to say, hey, we're going to pilot things that may take time for them to make sense. Like not being in a vacuum and getting evaluations from other, stakeholders relatively quickly. That was a plus, right? And having the ability to just kind of generate a pathway that wasn't necessarily there. While I was there, the demographic of students are all local, right? So that next level of understanding that from what I was doing, I'm literally honoring the vision of Zayed, right? I was not in my country when it was 52 years old.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't get to make that impact or that, you know, relative, you know, connection when my country was 52 years old. But
right.
I have here, right? And just seeing what I know now, what the innovation that this country wants to, you know, provide and build, and just being able to take local students into an alternative pathway that was not even heard of 40 years ago, 50 years ago, right?
Wow.
So just being able, that's one of my biggest accomplishments is being able to influence local culture, right? In that own way, right? Being culturally sensitive and those kind of things, but giving students the opportunity to know that there are these alternatives that they're now going to have to participate in to shape their future.
Yeah, definitely agree. I feel like Dubai is like an amazing place to cultivate that as well.
Totally.
Because it's so international.
Totally.
And there are different esports industries growing, and
this is the only country.
Expanding.
This is the only country on the planet Earth where we have a minister of artificial intelligence.
That's
right?
insane.
Just think about that.
Yeah, they're ahead of the game.
Totally.
Yeah.
That there's an entire university, Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, that has said that that is going to be the main pathway of study of academia, that we want students to matriculate through this university with this knowledge of artificial intelligence. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that should be championed.
It should.
And that should be cloned.
Yeah.
Right?
Everywhere, yeah.
I want to see, I know we have MIT, I know we have, you know, University of California and those things in my country, but they don't it doesn't have that same gravity when you think about what is being put in it.
No.
Right? And so I want to encourage other countries. I've now started having conversations through this, you know, platform here at GESS, you know, African nations. So that's what I'm hugely, you know, want to champion in the near future, right? African nations rising with this technology, accessibility and things. Who knows what's going to happen, right? South Asia, right? What's coming out of there, and just the wonderful things from around the world, right? That aren't coming from the normal places. That's what I want to champion and like showcase. Because that is then how the world that we want to see,
so much opportunity.
The change that you want to see, like it's happening. You know, through that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And educators often have concerns when adopting new technologies, especially
Certainly.
AI. What are some of the top questions that you hear?
So the top questions are always, how do I know if a student used it? Right? That's always the, you know, first thing. Like,
I mean, is that pretty obvious though?
So, if you know your student, right? Like, my son, I have a 15-year-old, right? So he's in high school.
ChatGPT world.
He's shown me 2 different other ones. Like I now become an expert when I'm standing on these stages that I learned from my 15-year-old.
Oh yeah, he must teach
He's
you a lot.
got 3 other checkpoints.
Yeah.
He's like, ChatGPT was sold last year.
I'm still using
so
that.
he creates something in ChatGPT, but he then puts it in 3 other checkpoints to change the language, to change the grammar, to change the tone of it, right?
Wow.
So he's using ChatGPT, then he puts it in word tune
I think they
to
can
change
create like AI images even now.
So, like so students are already attached to this, right?
Yeah.
So the main question that most educators have are like, how do we prevent that? And so the question is, you don't. Let's stop trying to prevent things and just add parameters and protection and not prevent. So that does mean that teachers have to get upskilled. I can you know, but that's CPD, that's, you know, professional development. That's the answer to anything, right? I like I said, I came into education through the pathway of careers in technology, but I've had to teach math classes that were adjacent to my class. It was like, oh, okay, I got to teach math. But that means I had to be skilled, I had to upskill myself to do that.
Yeah.
I knew how to do math, but how to teach it is a different thing. So I had to do that. So
I think the thing is with technology, it's like, where do you start? because it's just so much to learn, and it's daunting.
And so that was a lot of things that we talked about today in that human AI session, right? It's like, it does kind of feel like it's the Wild West, but it just takes someone that wants to say, all right, I'm going to take a few hours out of my day to figure out if this solution like helps. But in this context, there are a lot of schools now that are hiring people like myself. You know, there are enough consultants out there, or now becoming, because you know that's all that I ever did, right? I just was able to consult with enough schools and enough to then build up that portfolio and show evidence. And so that's happening all over, you know, this country now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to have evaluations.
More job opportunities for people and educators now.
Totally.
Not just in the
and again, non-traditionally, right? I never got an MPQH or a head certificate for, you know, senior leadership, but I'm a senior leader, right? Because then that pathway.
Yeah, you chose a different path.
Yes, and I ended up, and I'm able to now make decisions because of professionalism in education and knowing what needs to ultimately happen, and the main stakeholders of everything that we see are students. If we put them in the center and we think about what's best for them, then I am able to make certain decisions, right? So like right now in artificial intelligence, a lot of people have shied away from allowing students to use these tools. But there are now platforms that have teacher-facing sides and student-facing sides. So like, start there, right? Copilot and Gemini are attached to, you know, these names, former employers of mine, like Microsoft and Google, right? So most schools are either one of those two schools. There's Microsoft schools, there's, you know, Google schools.
Yeah.
So like, start there. Where are those solutions?
So much online resources and.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's nothing for a Google school to automatically input and use, you know, tools like Brisk Teaching that are just plugins, you know, to your computer.
Yeah.
You know, using Gemini
it doesn't take as much as you think.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I just encourage teachers, fail forward. Right? You're not going to break anything.
No.
You cannot break AI. Trust me. I've tried. I've tried it. You know what I'm saying? And just like, so don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And so that's where that comes from. Like, no AI shaming. We're not doing it anymore. Figure out how to do it. Don't be afraid. Don't shame yourself, and don't let other people shame you for you producing something that came from artificial intelligence. Because that is how we make sure that the machines don't take over us, right? If we are continuing to give in the input, and we're the human that's controlling what goes into these databases and these things that are used to generate, you know, the next things, it comes from educators. So AI needs educating.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Just that confidence that they need, I think.
Totally.
Yeah. And obviously with your extensive experience in research, what are you most excited about for the future of education and technology?
Yeah, my excitement is just seeing, again, just career pathways that didn't exist before, right? I got a chance to sit down and talk to 8 Billion Ideas that's here. I think they have one of the most phenomenal, like, idea, you know,
they
patterns.
They are really cool, yeah.
Super cool, right? Even me, myself, as a technologist or a futurist, right? We're like, oh, I never thought that could be a job, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm most excited about seeing that, of course, like, is, of course, what the world now creates as far as, you know, like job pathways, but then the prep for that, right? What does it mean to be a drone maintenance supervisor, right? What is that? What is that?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Right, of course, no one has, right? But we live in a country now where they've said that they're going to have flying taxis, right?
Taxis?
Yes. They've said in 2026 in Dubai,
I'm not
they
sure
will
if I want to go on one.
You won't, but your children will, right? 30 years from now, we're not laughing at that anymore. We're calling Uber and it's landing at my front door and then it's taking me up.
Yeah.
And I want that to happen. Actually, it's too late. It's 2024 and we don't have anything they promised us in sci-fi movies.
No.
Back to the Future was
Flying
1992 and Marty McFly was flying in a DeLorean in the 80s. Okay, we're late.
Yeah.
Right? So those kind of things. I mean, sarcastically, like I'm making a joke about it, but honestly, we're slowing each other down.
Yeah.
Right? We need that. We need that to happen. I want to see the next jump, the next leap. ChatGPT is nothing.
I know.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Snapchat licky face dog filters. That's nothing. That's slowing us down.
That'd be one of the old filters.
Yeah, that's it. That's an old one. Yeah, see, that's old. You still use that one? Right? You know what I'm saying?
That's a 2016.
Right, but that's what we're worried about. Snapchat filters.
Yeah.
We're worried about, like, stop. Let's get way past that. Right? I need drone maintenance supervisors.
Yeah.
I need. That's
flying taxi drivers.
Yeah, I need flying taxi drivers because what does that entail, right? Yeah. That means now I have to teach aviation?
Yes.
Right? Is that now a pathway that I have to teach, right? I have to teach maybe programming because maybe that taxi driver has to program a destination.
Yeah.
So again, just educated guesses. We don't know, but I want those things to come closer to us, right? I want to be able to see that in my lifetime, but at the same time, I want to be someone that influenced the notion of education that was pressing towards that lofty idea, because we have the opportunity to do that now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Tai, it was amazing talking to you.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Thank you for coming to GESS Dubai. We hope you come
so
next
much.
year again.
Of course.
Or GESS Saudi Arabia 2025.
Hey, yes.
So to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this special on-site episode from GESS Dubai. Being here surrounded by our educators and innovators reminds us of the power of community and knowledge sharing. Be sure to follow the GESSCast podcast for more engaging conversations with educational leaders. Until next time. Bye.